My name is Harper Vance. I am 34 years old, and exactly 2 months ago, my younger brother screamed at me to get out of his lavish wedding. 300 elite guests watched me walk down that grand aisle alone. Not as the proud older sister, not as the woman who raised him after our parents died. Not as the person who had personally paid for every single thing he ever needed, including the $100 Ziozen, crystal-draped reception he was currently standing in. I walked out, as the woman they arrogantly thought they would never need again. Get out, Harper. Bella doesn't want your corporate energy ruining her aesthetic. Those were his exact words shouted in front of everyone. And I did not say a single word back, what none of them knew, not Liam, not his influencer bride Bella, not her toxic mother Victoria hovering behind them like a desperate stage coach, was what I had been quietly building for 12 years in total silence. And when my entitled brother called me the very next morning, desperately begging for the master digital keys to my luxury estate, I gave him exactly 4 words that permanently destroyed his entire life. But that brief phone call was just the beginning. Welcome back to Alpha Empowered Stories. This is a story about a sister who gave everything, and a brother who conveniently forgot exactly where everything came from. Drop a comment down below if you have ever felt invisible to someone you sacrificed your life for, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. I built my first tech company when I was 22. Our parents had tragically passed away in a car accident when I was 20, and Liam was only 14. The life insurance barely covered the medical bills and the mortgage on our modest suburban home. I instantly dropped out of my master's program. I took 3 terrible jobs. I learned to code at night while Liam slept in the next room. I spent my entire 20s staring at glowing screens, building complex cybersecurity architecture, and pitching to venture capitalists who thought a 24-year-old girl in a cheap blazer was a total joke. By the time I was 28, my firm, Vance Security Solutions, was valued at exactly $40 million. I bought a massive hypermodern $12 million architectural masterpiece in Malibu. Concrete glass infinity pools overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I built a state-of-the-art guest house on the sprawling property, specifically for Liam. 2,000 square feet, imported Italian marble, private driveway. I gave him everything. I sent him to a premium private university. I paid his tuition in full. When he graduated with a useless degree and no ambition, I quietly gave him a high-paying, low-effort title at my firm, Director of Brand Relations. He made $120,000 a year to essentially post on social media and take clients to expensive lunches. The tragic thing about giving is this: when you do it quietly and consistently, toxic people stop noticing. They start expecting. The short distance between profound gratitude and entitlement is exactly 3 years of free rent. Liam used to look up to me. When he was a teenager, he would sit in my cramped home office and watch me code, amazed at how I built firewalls. But as the money grew, his respect shrank. He stopped asking about the grueling company numbers. He stopped showing up for Sunday dinners unless he desperately needed a check for a new luxury car. I foolishly told myself he was just finding his way. Young men need space. The deep guilt of replacing our parents made me stay quiet. Bella was 25, a mid-tier lifestyle influencer, with a curated Instagram aesthetic and a fast, empty smile. She had a firm handshake and no substance. She asked about my Malibu estate within the first 20 minutes of sitting at my dining table. 12 million, she said, her eyes calculating. That must be worth quite a lot of equity. Who exactly is on the master deed? Over the next few grueling months, I noticed toxic patterns. Bella constantly referred to me as Liam's boss rather than his sister. Small thing, the kind of tiny thing most people would never catch. I catch small things. 12 years of hunting corporate cyber threats teaches you exactly how to read subtle anomalies in human behavior. Just making it hours, she said smoothly. Hours on my private land in a building I owned. Liam smiled blankly when she said it. I did not then. Bella's mother, Victoria, arrived. She touched my imported furniture. A bit cold, isn't it? She sneered. The way people say cold when they actually mean I could never afford this. Your sister doesn't need this estate all to herself, Victoria whispered loudly to Liam. A nice luxury condo in the city would suit her perfectly. It would free up this entire property for you and Bella to actually build a real family legacy. That was the exact moment I should have spoken up. I should have walked directly into that dining room and said, Victoria, this is my house, my land, and my expensive turkey you are currently choking down. I quietly walked into my home office and checked my complex server logs. That is exactly what I do when I don't trust my own mouth. I go check on networks that don't talk back. The servers were fine, unbothered by greedy women who arrogantly think a $12 million estate is a free giveaway waiting to happen. I called Liam that exact evening. Congratulations, Liam. I am so happy for you. The wedding budget was exactly $100. Liam unapologetically asked me to pay for it. I wrote the check the exact same day. I didn't hesitate, I was the older sister. It was my final gift to him. The groom's sister just shows up and smiles, Harper. That's your only role, Victoria said sharply. Space is tight, Harper. Bella has a network of important influencers. I bought a stunning new designer dress for the wedding. Deep emerald green silk. It was the absolute first new dress I had bought for myself in 3 grueling years. I desperately wanted to look right for my younger brother's day. The exclusive Crystal Cove Country Club smelled exactly like fresh gardenias and old money. Crisp white tablecloths, imported crystal glasses, a live string quartet playing pop songs they clearly hated. Victoria wore a dress that was white, not off-white, not subtle champagne, absolute, blinding white. At her own daughter's wedding, I had been to enough high-society corporate events to know exactly what that meant. It was pure, toxic territory marking. I was seated at table 18, located next to the swinging kitchen doors. Every single time a hurried server came through, the heavy door swung open, and I caught a blast of industrial dishwasher steam. Table 1 had Victoria, Bella's father, and Bella's screaming influencer friends. Table 2 had Liam's loud groomsmen. Table 18 had me and exactly 3 awkward couples I had never met in my entire life. The expensive ceremony was undeniably beautiful. I will give them that. Liam looked handsome in his custom suit. Bella looked exactly like a bride. The vows were short and shallow, no pretension of true family, of legacy, of the exact people who had worked and sacrificed to make it possible for either of them to stand there. During the loud reception, I quietly waited for the perfect moment. Liam was standing near the expensive ice sculpture, laughing loudly with a drunk groomsman. I calmly walked over to him. I am so proud of you, Liam, I said softly. He looked at me. For half an agonizing second I saw the exact young boy who used to sit in my cramped office and watch me code. Then Bella appeared at his elbow. She whispered something into his ear. I watched my brother's face change. It was exactly like a heavy vault door closing. He reached out and grabbed my arm, not gently. He pulled me forcefully toward the exit, directly past table 4, past table 9, past 300 elite guests holding expensive champagne flutes. Near the grand doorway, loud enough for the closest VIP tables to hear, my own brother spoke. Get out, Harper. Bella doesn't want your corporate energy ruining her aesthetic. You are making everyone uncomfortable. I stopped dead. I looked at Liam. I looked at Bella standing proudly behind him. Her thin arms confidently crossed, her chin up. I looked at 300 pairs of elite eyes, some genuinely shocked, some deeply embarrassed, some cowardly pretending they didn't hear a thing. I calmly removed his heavy hand from my arm, exactly 1 finger at a time. I smoothly straightened my expensive emerald dress. And I walked out. I did not scream, I did not cry, I did not look back. I drove 40 minutes back to Malibu in total. Agonizing silence, no radio, the bright headlights catching the ocean spray off the Pacific Coast Highway. I pulled up to my iron security gate. The metal structure hummed quietly. I sat in my expensive car for exactly 27 minutes, the quiet engine running. Then I went inside and checked my server logs, because the network needed me, even if my own brother did not. 7:14 a.m. the very next morning, I was sitting quietly at my marble kitchen island. I had not slept. My encrypted phone rang loudly. It was Liam. No text first, no Harper. I'm so sorry about last night. Just a demanding call. 7:14 on a Sunday morning. the exact day after he threw me out of his own lavish wedding that I paid for. Harper, we are heading back to the estate, Liam demanded, his voice thick with sleep and entitlement. I need the master digital keys to the main garage. Bella desperately wants to reorganize it for her new influencer studio. I quietly held my expensive coffee cup. It did not shake. My hands have stopped shaking after 12 years of dismantling corporate hackers. No apology. I asked smoothly, Harper, come on, please don't make this a thing, he groaned. We are officially married now. We need to plan for our future, plan for their future on my private land, in my buildings. Using my exact keys, I quietly set the expensive coffee cup down on the marble. Liam, I have exactly 4 words for you. Total silence on his end. I could hear Bella whining in the background. Just tell her we are coming. I changed the codes. 4 exact words, then nothing. 5 full seconds of dead, panicked air. What? Liam gasped. You heard me perfectly, I said calmly. The main house, the guest estate, the front security gate. Do not come to this estate without calling me first. I could hear his frantic breathing, then Bella's voice, significantly sharper now. What exactly did she say? I smoothly hung up. I placed the phone face down on the cold marble. I picked up my expensive coffee. It was still warm. I had logged into the Central Security mainframe at exactly 6 that morning. I had revoked all of Liam's digital access credentials in exactly 45 seconds. I didn't need to ask permission. I just executed the master override command and confidently watched his access tokens expire on my screen. Liam drove out to the estate anyway. I quietly watched him from the kitchen window. He pulled his expensive car up to the iron gate. He rolled down the window and frantically punched his personal code into the glowing keypad. The pad flashed red, a castaned. He desperately tried it again. He punched the buttons harder. The gate did not move. He stood outside his car for 2 full minutes, his hands resting on the iron gate like he was desperately waiting for it to magically recognize him. Then he got back into his car and frantically called Bella. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I could easily read his defeated body language through the clear windshield. Shoulders slumped, one hand heavily on the steering wheel, one pressing the phone desperately to his ear. Later that day, Victoria called me. Harper, you are being childish, Victoria hissed. That guest house belongs to Liam. Your parents would be ashamed of you. I was calmly standing at the kitchen sink, washing my expensive coffee mug. Victoria, I said smoothly, I bought this estate with money I earned myself. I know exactly who it belongs to. I hung up. I set the phone on the counter. Some foolish people think silence is a sign of weakness. That quietly walking away means you have lost. They are wrong. Total silence is exactly what happens when you have already decided. When the final answer is lethal, and you just haven't told them yet. I quietly dried the expensive mug and put it back on the pristine shelf. Can you genuinely imagine building an empire from nothing for 12 grueling years, working yourself to the bone, and then your own brother tells you to get out of a wedding you paid for? If you have ever had someone arrogantly treat your life's work like it was theirs to effortlessly take, drop a comment below. I would love to hear your story. Now, let me tell you exactly what I found next. Exactly 3 days after I revoked their digital access, I walked over to the guest estate. Liam and Bella had frantically cleared out most of their expensive clothes before the wedding, but there were still heavy boxes left behind. Expensive tech gadgets, unread books, a set of cheap tools Bella bought Liam that he never used because my tools were significantly better. Liam had grabbed a few bags and his laptop when he stormed off, angry about the locked gates, and the rest simply got left behind in the chaotic rush. I was quietly packing the absolute last cardboard box when I saw Bella's rose gold iPad resting on the expensive kitchen island. It was open, the screen glowing brightly, fully logged in. I am not a snoop. I never have been. 12 years of hunting corporate cyber criminals has taught me that problems always announce themselves if you are just patient enough to wait. I did not go actively looking for trouble, but the email tab was open, and the bold subject line was right there in plain sight. Re-Malibu Estate Acquisition Strategy. I should have confidently closed the screen, I should have quietly walked away, and let Liam brutally handle whatever toxic business he foolishly thought he had. Instead, I sat down at that expensive island and I quietly read. I am not proud of reading my toxic sister-in-law's private emails, but I am not sorry either. When someone is actively planning to steal your life's work and turn it into cash, you have an absolute, unyielding right to know. What I found in those emails changed everything. I thought I understood about why Bella wanted me gone. It was not about Liam's supposed independence. It was not about their toxic marriage. It was about money, my land, and a corporate entity called Vanguard Luxury Development. The very first email was dated exactly 6 months before the wedding. From Bella to a senior acquisition director at Vanguard. Hi, my future husband is the legal heir to a 3-acre Malibu estate. Once we are married, we would like to explore options for selling the property for commercial development. Could you send projected returns? The enthusiastic reply came exactly 2 days later. Professional corporate letterhead bullet points. At current market rates for premium beachfront commercial zoning, that specific acreage could confidently yield an estimated $18 to $22 million depending on infrastructure costs. We would be happy to schedule a private feasibility site visit at your earliest convenience. There were exactly 6 more emails back and forth, Bella asking about fast timelines, Vanguard cautiously asking about the exact ownership structure. Bella's final reply to that specific question stopped my heart cold. My sister-in-law currently occupies the main house, but she has been increasingly unstable. We expect to take over legal management of the entire property within 6 months after the wedding. We will be your primary contacts going forward, increasingly unstable, take over legal management. 6 months. I read that terrifying line exactly 3 times. Then, I quietly took out my encrypted phone and meticulously photographed every single email in the chain. 9 distinct photographs total. I instantly uploaded them to my personal, heavily encrypted off-site server. Then I put the pink iPad back exactly where I found it. I smoothly closed the glowing screen to the exact same angle. I pushed the heavy chair in. I walked slowly back to the main house. I sat at my glass desk and looked out at the Pacific Ocean. The exact same desk where I had coded the software that bought this house. The exact same desk where I had written the $100,000 check for a wedding that ended with me walking out alone. $22 million, that is exactly what my life's work was worth to Bella. A development feasibility study, a projected return. I sat at that expensive desk for exactly 1 hour. I did not cry, I planned. Harrison Webb has been my ruthless corporate attorney for 10 years. He handled my firm's incorporation, the insurance policies, and the complex intellectual property disputes. He is 62 precise, and he bills in strict 6-minute increments, which tells you everything you need to know about exactly how his mind efficiently works. I confidently called him on a Tuesday morning. Harrison, I desperately need you to confirm something for me. The irrevocable trust. You already know why I am calling, I said smoothly. Harper Elite Circles talk, Harrison replied dryly. I heard about the scene at the wedding, and I have been expecting this exact call for about 3 years. The trust was airtight, my name, my terms. Liam had no legal claim to the Malibu estate. Not now, not ever, not unless I voluntarily initiated a transfer, and even then there were strict conditions. What exact conditions, I asked, even though I already knew. I had written them myself. The transferee must demonstrate 5 consecutive years of active executive management, advanced security solutions, and complete an accredited corporate finance degree, Harrison recited. Liam has done neither. 5 years of waking up at 4:30 a.m., 5 years of managing corporate crises and negotiating with federal security boards. That was my exact price, not because I was punishing Liam, because I knew what this empire demanded to survive. And if someone desperately tried to sell the estate without my authorization, I asked, they would need your verified signature on approximately 47 complex legal documents, Harrison said smoothly. Any desperate attempt to sell, transfer, or develop without it would constitute federal fraud. and I would personally be the one filing the complaint. Thank you, Harrison Harper, Harrison said quietly. For what it's worth, you structured this flawlessly. I hung up. I smiled for the absolute first time in a grueling week. I poured myself another cup of expensive coffee. The estate was mine, it always had been, and no email to a greedy developer was ever going to change that. Liam showed up at the front gate exactly 4 days later. He pressed the heavy intercom buzzer I had reprogrammed the day after the locks. 2 short buzzes, a brief pause, then a long one, the exact same rhythm he used to enthusiastically honk his horn when he came home from college for the summer. I smoothly let him in. We sat quietly on the concrete terrace, not inside the house. The terrace was enough. He looked tired, dark circles, his expensive shirt wrinkled, his luxury sports car was dirty, which was highly unusual for Liam, who obsessively washed it every Saturday like a religion. Harper, please, can we just talk? We are currently talking, I said calmly. Belsa says you are massively overreacting. Bella says a amount of things. He leaned forward, his elbows heavily on his knees, adopting the exact posture of a man desperately trying to find words in the wrong drawer. This estate, Harper, Mom and Dad would have wanted me to have part of it. It's family legacy. I looked directly at him, my own brother, our father's jawline. My exact eyes, the young boy who used to sit in my cramped bedroom and watch me exhaustively build firewalls. Our parents would have wanted you to earn it, Liam. He went quiet. The ocean crashed against the rocks below us. Harper, I'm sorry about the wedding. I was massively stressed. Bella was stressed. It all just got out of hand. You weren't stressed. Liam, I said smoothly. You were actively choosing. He flinched, he opened his mouth, closed it completely, and stood up. I love you, Harper, I know you do, I said. That is exactly why this is so hard. He walked slowly back to his expensive car. I watched him go. At the gate he stopped and looked back. I raised my hand, not a wave exactly. Just a quiet acknowledgement. He drove away. From his car he immediately texted Bella. She is not budging. We desperately need Plan B. I know this because Bella arrogantly told me later, but that part comes significantly after. Victoria showed up unannounced on a Thursday. She just pulled her white luxury SUV up the long private driveway, parked arrogantly next to my sports car, and walked in like she owned the place. I was actively inspecting the server rack in the climate-controlled basement, a complex bundle of fiber optic cables in my hand, the exact kind of intensely technical work Victoria probably thought was beneath everyone. Harper, we desperately need to have an honest conversation, Victoria announced, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. I kept securely connecting the cables. I didn't realize our conversations had been dishonest. She stepped closer. You are a 34-year-old single woman trying to run this estate and a huge company alone. That is not sustainable. Liam and Bella are generously willing to step in and take over management. You should be grateful they are offering. Grateful, the heavy word hung in the cool air like server room dust. Victoria, I said calmly, not looking away from the complex wiring. This passive server rack has significantly better judgment than your unsolicited advice. Her heavily contoured face tightened, her jaw set. She reached instantly for the toxic weapon she always reached for. Your parents would be absolutely. I stopped, I put the heavy cables down, stood up straight, and looked Victoria directly in the eyes. Don't, she blinked. Don't you dare finish that sentence, I said, my voice dead and cold. You didn't know my parents. You met them never. You don't know this estate. You don't know what it fiercely costs to build a $40 million empire from absolute scratch. And you don't know me. The server room went dead silent. Even the heavy cooling fans seemed to pause. Victoria smoothed her expensive jacket, turned sharply on her high heels, and walked out without a single other word. I picked up the complex cables and went right back to my work. Some foolish people confidently think aggressive confrontation requires volume. It doesn't. It requires lethal precision. One clean sentence placed in the exact right spot does significantly more damage than 20 minutes of violent screaming. Victoria didn't call again for 2 entire weeks. Elite corporate circles actively run on exactly 2 things: capital and toxic gossip. By the end of the grueling week, Everyone in a 40-mile radius of Silicon Valley knew that Harper Vance's brother had thrown her out of his own lavish wedding, and that she had changed the complex smart locks on her own estate. My lead investor, a 70-year-old billionaire named Marcus, was the very first to stop by. He was the kind of man who says exactly what he means and nothing more. He had watched me build my company when I was a terrified 22-year-old. He leaned heavily on the glass terrace railing, watching the ocean. "Heard your brother and his new bride are having some trouble with your front gate, Harper. They are actively having trouble with the amount of things, Marcus." He was quiet for a minute. "Harper, I watched you pitch this company when you were broke. Anyone who arrogantly thinks they can take this empire from you doesn't know the first thing about you." He paused. "Whatever you need, I need you to be honest with me," I said. "Have you heard anything about commercial developers looking at luxury residential land around here?" Marcus turned, his expression shifted. "Matter of fact, I got a cold call last month, company called Vanguard. Wanted to know if I'd sell as my beachfront property for luxury commercial development. I told them I'd rather eat my own expensive shoes." Vanguard, the exact same company in Bella's stolen emails. Approaching neighbors, ruthlessly testing the perimeter. "Marcus," I said smoothly, "I think we desperately need to have a significantly longer conversation." "I think so too," he smiled. "Coffee is on me. I finally had an ally. More importantly, I had a highly credible witness. That exact evening, I sat at my glass desk and laid everything out. The meticulously printed emails, 9 distinct pages, time-stamped. The irrevocable trust document, 42 pages, officially signed and notarized. The estate appraisal from last year, exactly $12 million. I had exactly 2 choices. First choice, fight quietly, ruthless lawyers, formal letters, maybe an aggressive restraining order. Keep it contained, handle it like a standard property dispute, because legally, that is exactly what it was. Bella had no claim, Liam had no claim, the trust was airtight. I could lock the gate, change my phone number, and let Harrison Webb send a cease and desist that would permanently end it in 30 days. Second choice, let the absolute truth do exactly what truth does. The elite Silicon Valley Founders Gala was in exactly 2 weeks. I had been a founding board member for 8 years. 200 elite investors, tech billionaires, and luxury developers attend. These are the exact people who watched me build Vance Security from absolute zero. Who sat at my table, negotiated deals, and knew my name significantly longer than Bella had been alive. I didn't need to create a scene. Bella and Victoria would do that for me. I confidently knew their type. Give them a room full of elite people and a toxic grievance, and they would light their own fire. All I had to do was show up. I stacked the heavy papers, I securely put them in my designer purse. Total preparation isn't paranoia, it is exactly how you survive the tech industry. Bella called me directly for the very first time. No Liam buffer, just her fake voice, sweet as cheap frosting. "Harper, I think we got off on the totally wrong foot. Liam and I just desperately want to be a family. We are willing to help manage the estate. Take the crushing burden off you. You have worked so hard for so long, you desperately deserve to rest." "What exact burden, Bella?" I asked smoothly. A pause. I could physically hear her rapidly recalibrating, desperately choosing a different manipulative script. "The main point is, we have officially talked to a lawyer. Liam is your parents' biological son, he has explicit inheritance rights, California law is clear on this. Did your lawyer mention irrevocable trusts?" I asked. Total silence, 3 full agonizing seconds, because mine did exactly 5 years ago. I continued, my voice dead. "The estate has been securely held in an ironclad trust since then. My exact name, my strict terms, my absolute decision." Her frantic breathing changed. The toxic sweetness dropped like a cheap mask hitting the marble floor. "You can't shut your own brother out of his family's property," she screamed. "It is not his family's property, Bella," I said quietly. "It is mine, every single acre, every glass window, every security camera. I bought it, meticulously built it, maintained it, and heavily insured it. Your name appears on none of those documents, neither does Liam's. This isn't over, Harper." "You are right," I said smoothly. "It isn't." She hung up. I calmly set the expensive phone on the counter and efficiently finished loading the dishwasher. Here is exactly what foolish people don't understand about quiet power. It is not about desperately withholding information. It is about meticulously choosing exactly when to deliver it. Bella arrogantly thought she had leveraged a corrupt lawyer, a gullible husband, a fake claim. She had none of those things. She had an assumption. Toxic assumptions are comfortable, right up until someone opens the correct file cabinet. The tech community did exactly what elite communities do. It talked. A prominent venture capitalist stopped Liam at an exclusive coffee shop in Palo Alto. Your sister built that firm from absolute nothing, son. The whole valley knows it. Liam's face went red. He bought his expensive coffee and left without talking to anyone else. The prominent female founders group asked me directly after a networking event. Harper, we saw the lavish wedding photos on Instagram. You weren't in a single one, not even one. Is everything all right? It will be. Thank you for asking. I didn't offer details. I didn't need to. In a tight-knit elite circle this size, the details always find their own fast way around. Liam physically felt the shift, the polite nods that came half a second too late, the conversations that stopped when he walked into a luxury restaurant. Nobody was rude, nobody confronted him, they just quietly noticed, and actively noticing is its own terrifying kind of pressure. At his cheap new apartment, things were fraying. Bella and Liam argued. I know because a mutual friend overheard them screaming through the thin walls. Liam, maybe we should just deeply apologize to Harper. Apologize? We haven't done anything wrong, Bella. Your toxic mother is manipulating everyone against us. These tech people are so small-minded, Liam. They aren't small-minded, Bella. They have known Harper for 12 years. Exactly, that's the problem. She has built a wall of elite people who foolishly think she can do no wrong. That is exactly how Bella processed it. Not my sister-in-law built genuine relationships over a decade. Instead, she manipulated a whole valley. Tell me something honestly, who do you genuinely think was doing the manipulating? I kept running my company, checking the server security, and confidently letting the absolute truth travel at its own lethal speed. On a quiet Tuesday evening just before sunset, I was actively testing a new drone security protocol on the sprawling estate. The exact same complex technical work I had been doing for 12 years to keep my empire alive. As the expensive drones swept over the perimeter, I sharply noticed a luxury sports car parked on the coastal highway, exactly 50 yards from the main iron gate, engine running. I couldn't see the driver through the tinted glass, not with the California sun directly in my eyes. The expensive truck sat there for exactly 10 minutes. Then it drove away. The security logs instantly confirmed it the next morning. It was Liam's car. I like to genuinely think Liam sat there quietly, remembering the early mornings sitting at my cramped kitchen island, watching me exhaustively code his expensive college tuition. I deeply like to think he looked at the massive, secure estate and vividly remembered exactly who his sister was before Bella told him who she should be. Then he actively drove away. My security system recorded his phone signal buzzing exactly right before he left. I vividly imagine the desperate text said something like, "Did you call the developer about comparable lots?" I changed the physical locks, but Liam had been actively driving away from this estate from me for a significantly longer time than just one summer. Some complex locks you don't change with a professional locksmith. Some locks the toxic person has to change themselves. You know what hurts significantly, more than being kicked out of your own brother's wedding? Watching him actively drive past the exact empire you built for him, and confidently choose to keep driving. If you have ever agonizingly watched someone you deeply love actively choose the wrong person over you, please hit that subscribe button right now. You are not alone, and this terrifying story is not over. The exclusive Silicon Valley Founders Gala invitations went out the very first week of August. Heavy cream-colored envelopes, the exact same as every elite year. Mine arrived on a Monday. I RSVP'd yes the exact same day. 8 consecutive years, I had missed none. Liam usually attended on my direct coattails. My company was a platinum sponsor. He typically had a minor seat at my table, politely making the rounds this year. Bella insisted on coming. I should be there, she demanded to him. I am officially a Vance now. A Vance, exactly 2 months of toxic marriage, and one attempted real estate grab, and she arrogantly thought she was a Vance. Now Victoria came along too, a toxic mother-daughter team radiating cheap confidence. I vividly imagined them in the expensive car on the way there, strategizing. Victoria probably told Bella to just play sweet to the tech billionaires, effortlessly win them over. As if these ruthless men and women who have been reading complex markets, trends, and deceitful people for 40 years couldn't easily spot a cheap performance at 50 paces. I didn't plan what happened next, I desperately need you to know that. But I wasn't surprised by it either. I dressed for the gala the exact way I dress for anything that matters, a hostile takeover. A simple, devastatingly sharp black designer dress. Not brand new, worn exactly twice before to board meetings where I fired corrupt executives. No flashy jewelry, I put the black folder directly into my designer purse. Not because I actively planned to use it, not because I desperately wanted a confrontation, but because 12 years of ruthless tech survival heavily taught me one unbreakable corporate rule. You do not leave the secure house without knowing exactly where your unassailable documents are. A market crash can kill a startup, a severe data breach can scatter a network, a corrupt board can call your loans. And in every single one of those terrifying situations, the explicit person who survives is the exact one who was ready before it even happened. Total preparation is not paranoia, it is the absolute only thing standing between you and the next disaster. Marcus picked me up at 6 p.m. in his armored luxury sedan. Clean suit, sharp tie, the expensive car smelled exactly like leather and wealth. Ready, Harper? I clicked my heavy seatbelt. I looked at the estate through the tinted passenger window. $12 million of concrete, glass, and ocean views, all turning brilliant gold in the evening light. Marcus, I said quietly, I have been ready for 12 years. He nodded smoothly, putting the car in gear. Neither of us said another word until we arrived at the venue. Some things don't need discussion, they just need the exact right people, in the exact right room at the exact right time. Tonight, the right room was about to get crowded. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton smelled exactly like expensive vintage champagne and high-stakes corporate deals. Crisp tables covered in black silk, centerpieces made of imported white orchids. Exactly 200 elite people filled the room. Top tech founders, ruthless venture capitalists, elite real estate developers, and a few state senators who showed up every single year purely for the photo op. I confidently walked in with Marcus. The room immediately responded the exact way it always does when I arrive. Firm handshakes, respectful hugs, someone seamlessly pressing an expensive drink directly into my hand before I even reached my VIP table. Elena Rostova, the brilliant president of the Founders Board, enthusiastically caught me near the ice sculpture. She was 50, with razor-sharp silver hair and a voice like a boardroom gavel. Harper Vance, Elena announced, loud enough for the closest VIP tables to clearly hear. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman's brilliant operation is the absolute gold standard for corporate cybersecurity in this entire state. A few powerful people genuinely clapped. I smiled warmly, thanked her, and took my assigned seat at the head VIP table, Marcus sitting powerfully right beside me. Exactly 15 minutes later, Liam nervously walked in, Bella clinging to his arm, Victoria hovering 2 steps directly behind. Bella wore a flashy, highly inappropriate neon dress and sky-high heels that loudly screamed, "I have never closed a deal in my life." She frantically scanned the room, counting heads, measuring the elite crowd, desperately deciding exactly how to manipulate it. Victoria smoothed her cheap hair and put on her fake, wide smile. Liam nervously looked at me directly across the room. I smiled warmly at him, a real smile, the exact kind an older sister gives her younger brother, even when he has broken her heart, because that is exactly what family does. He did not smile back. Bella whispered something to Victoria. Victoria's contoured face instantly hardened. They frantically found their minor vendor table in the back and sat down. The silent auction was starting, but the absolute real bidding hadn't even begun yet. It happened during the social hour between the expensive dinner and the live auction. I was standing at the champagne station, quietly talking with Elena and Marcus about a new software acquisition, when Victoria Keller walked up. Not casually, purposefully, her cheap heels clicking on the polished marble floor, exactly like a toxic countdown. She did not lower her loud voice. That was her absolute first mistake. "Harper, we urgently need to talk about the Malibu estate," Victoria demanded loudly. The elite tables within direct earshot instantly went dead quiet. Elena slowly stepped back, her eyes narrowing. I calmly set my expensive champagne flute down on the pristine marble station counter. "Harper," Victoria continued loudly, waving her hand. "Bella and Liam have plans for that beachfront property, and you are standing in the absolute way of your own brother's future." Marcus stood still. I could physically feel the entire room tilting, elite conversations dying, powerful heads turning, expensive forks pausing mid-air. Victoria kept going. She had toxic momentum, and blind momentum is hard to stop when you arrogantly don't know you should. "It is family land," Victoria declared loudly to the silent crowd. "It should go directly to his new family, not be selfishly hoarded by a single woman who can barely manage such a property alone." "You are 34 years old, Harper. How much longer do you confidently think you can pretend to be a real estate mogul?" The ballroom was dead silent now. 200 of the most powerful elite people in California looking at Victoria Keller, a desperate woman. Most of them had never met, loudly telling Harper Vance, a founding board member, a 12-year tech CEO, the brilliant woman who actively secured their corporate data, that she supposedly couldn't run her own private estate. I calmly picked up my champagne flute, took a slow, flawless sip, and set it smoothly back down on the cold marble. "Victoria," I said, my voice measured and cold, "you seem very interested in real estate that doesn't belong to you." She blinked aggressively. "Or to your entitled daughter," I continued softly. Her mouth opened. "Or to my brother." The silence that followed was the exact kind you deeply feel directly in your chest. Exactly like the heavy air right before a storm drops its very first lightning strike. Bella was standing frozen at her cheap table across the room. Liam was standing right behind her, one shaking hand, gripping the back of a chair, his knuckles white. Victoria recovered, the exact way toxic people actively do when they have committed too far to safely stop. "It does belong to Liam. He is your parents' biological son," she screamed. I looked calmly at Victoria, then coldly at Bella, then directly at my terrified brother. "The entire Malibu estate is securely held in an ironclad irrevocable trust," I stated loudly and clearly. "Has been for exactly 5 years, my exact name, my land, my absolute decision." Loud gasps echoed from exactly 3 VIP tables nearby. Elena Rostova nodded slowly. It was the exact knowing nod of a brilliant woman who had suspected something exactly like this, but had never needed to ask. Liam's face went completely, devastatingly white. "Harper, what?" "I set it up exactly 5 years ago, Liam," I said clearly. "I was always going to officially transfer a percentage of it to you when you were truly ready. When you finally understood exactly what this empire actively costs to maintain." I kept my voice even, the exact same cold, measured voice I use when I am negotiating a federal contract. "No room for panic. 12 grueling years of my entire life, Liam," I said, looking directly at my brother. "Every single server I built, every client I pitched, every 4:00 a.m. coding session when I couldn't feel my fingers. I paid for all of it." Then I slowly turned my cold gaze directly to Bella. "And I know all about Vanguard luxury development, Bella." Her heavily contoured face went from stark white to dead gray. The exact terrifying color toxic people actively turn when the floor disappears beneath them. "I read the private emails on your synced iPad," I said loudly. "Once we are married, we would like to explore selling for commercial development. 18 to $22 million, that is exactly what you saw when you greedily looked at my private home." Bella opened her mouth, nothing came out. "You contacted them exactly 6 months before the lavish wedding," I stated flawlessly, "before you officially said, 'I do,'" Before you took my brother's name, you were already desperately measuring my entire life's work in cheap dollar signs. I confidently reached into my designer purse. My fingers briefly touched the heavy, irrevocable trust document. I didn't pull it out, I didn't need to. Every single powerful person in that room already believed me. I looked at Bella exactly one last time. You can't sell what was never yours, sweetheart. The word sweetheart landed exactly like a steel vault door slamming permanently shut. Not cruel, not loud, just completely devastatingly final. Marcus sat confidently back in his expensive chair and heavily crossed his arms, a small, terrifying smile playing on his lips. Alina put her hand elegantly over her mouth. Nobody else moved. Liam stepped forward. Not toward me, directly toward Bella. You contacted a commercial developer about Harper's estate? Liam yelled, his voice echoing in the silent ballroom. Bella's fake composure cracked into a million pieces. Liam, it's not like that. I was just looking into options for us. For our future? Liam's voice was rising. 200 powerful people actively watching. You told me Harper was controlling. You told me she didn't respect us. You told me she was trying to keep us down. And the entire agonizing time, you were actively planning to sell her land out from under her? It's not selling, Liam, it's developing. Bella screamed frantically. It's her absolute life, Bella. Liam roared. Victoria grabbed Bella's shaking arm. We are leaving right now. Marcus, who had been silent through the entire exchange, spoke for the very first time that night. His deep voice powerfully carried across the room, low, certain, utterly impossible to ignore. I genuinely think that is the absolute best idea you've had all night, Victoria. Victoria pulled a sobbing Bella directly toward the exit. Bella's sky-high heels caught on the polished marble, causing her to stumble. Victoria didn't slow down. Liam did not follow them. He stood frozen in the middle of that elite ballroom, surrounded by 200 powerful people who had known his older sister significantly longer than he had actively known his greedy wife. He looked devastatingly at me. Harper, not tonight, Liam, I said quietly. His eyes were wet. I could vividly see the terrified young boy who used to sit in my cramped office still desperately in there somewhere, buried under his own toxic choices. Go home, Liam, I said smoothly. Think about exactly what home actually means to you now. He walked out, alone, through the main doors and directly into the dark parking lot. Bella and Victoria were already frantically speeding away in their car. The ballroom collectively exhaled, exactly like a server room after a severe power surge passes. Everyone releasing the tense breath they didn't actively know they had been heavily holding. Elena Rostova confidently stood up and cleared her throat. Harper, Elena said, her voice ringing clearly, I genuinely think I speak for everyone in this room when I say this entire community knows exactly who built Vance Security. And we definitely know exactly who is still running it. Applause, not polite, golfing applause, real, thunderous applause, the exact kind that confidently comes from elite people who profoundly understand exactly what empires actively cost, because they pay the exact same steep price. I nodded gracefully. Thank you, Elena, I said smoothly. Now I believe we have a silent auction to finish. Genuine laughter confidently rippled through the elite crowd. The tension broke like a severe fever. High-stakes conversation actively started again. Expensive plates moved, vintage champagne poured. Marcus confidently handed me a fresh, chilled glass. We sat in total comfortable silence for exactly 1 minute, which is exactly how Marcus and I have done most of our absolute best talking for 12 years. Your parents would have loved that takedown, Marcus said finally. I smiled warmly. My parents would have confidently said I waited significantly too long. Marcus laughed. He was right. I confidently drank my vintage champagne and watched the room comfortably settle. These powerful people, my people, went right back to their elite dinners and their corporate lives. And so did I exactly. 1 week later, the numbers, I promised you the exact numbers, so here they are. I officially and ruthlessly fired Liam from Vance Security Solutions. Without his $120,000 salary and the free $12 million luxury guest house, Liam was forced to move into a tiny, run-down studio apartment in a terrible neighborhood. Rent, $2,800 a month, It was the absolute first time in his entire entitled life he had ever written a rent check. Without my estate to ruthlessly leverage, Bella's fake influencer plan collapsed. No luxury estate to subdivide, no $20 million payout, no Vanguard development feasibility study coming to fruition. Just a tiny, cramped studio apartment and a terrified husband who was finally starting to clearly see her for the absolute first time. Bella filed for divorce exactly 3 months later. Victoria Keller deleted her toxic social media accounts. She stopped showing up to elite charity events, networking mixers, and expensive boutiques. I confidently heard she told Bella's father it was significantly too humiliating to be seen in public. Funny exactly how humiliation actively works, Victoria dished it out at my brother's expensive wedding and couldn't take a single teaspoon of it back. Vanguard Luxury Development withdrew all commercial interest in the area immediately after Harrison Webb sent them a massive, terrifying legal letter explaining the ironclad irrevocable trust structure. They didn't even reply, they just went silent. Smart. I converted the luxury guest estate into a state-of-the-art corporate training center for brilliant young female software engineers. New desks, high-tech server racks, and a brand new security system that I programmed myself. When you quietly build an empire with your own 2 hands, you quickly learn that not everyone deserves a secure seat at your expensive table. Especially the toxic people who desperately try to flip the table while you are actively feeding them. If someone tells you to get out of their life, do not argue. Do not scream, do not cry. You simply turn around, walk away, and you make sure you lock every single one of your doors directly behind you. If this terrifying story gave you the absolute courage to finally draw a massive ironclad boundary, with the toxic people draining your own life, please confidently hit that like button right now. Share this specific video with any woman who desperately needs a reminder of her own incredible, quiet power, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of absolute, cold justice. Leave a comment down below and proudly tell me, if your toxic family kicked you out of the wedding you paid for, would you bring the black folder to the elite gala, or would you simply cut them off in absolute silence? I meticulously read every single comment, and I will see you all next time. Stay strong, stay brilliant, and always secure your own servers. Let me be honest with you about exactly what happens when you brutally cut toxic family out of an empire. It does not actually feel like a triumphant movie ending. It feels like a massive, exhausting corporate audit that leaves you drained but fundamentally secure. For the first few weeks, the deep silence in my Malibu estate was almost terrifying. I was so used to the subtle, toxic noise, the quiet, entitled demands, the passive-aggressive comments from Bella about the high-end decor. The subtle ways Liam would strategically drop hints about needing a new luxury car or a bonus for no work. When all of that toxic noise was removed, I was left alone with the ocean and my own thoughts. And that is exactly when the profound clarity arrived. I started meticulously reviewing the complex corporate logs Liam had supposedly been managing as director of brand relations. It was a complete, unmitigated disaster. He hadn't actually secured a single new enterprise client in over 2 years. He had expensed lavish dinners, luxury retreats, and expensive tech gear that miraculously ended up featured on Bella's pristine Instagram feed. He was systematically draining my company exactly the way Bella and Victoria were planning to drain my real estate. Firing my own brother was the absolute hardest, most heartbreaking corporate decision I have ever had to make. I didn't call him into my glass office. I didn't orchestrate a dramatic boardroom scene. I simply had my ruthless HR director formally send him a severance package via certified mail, accompanied by a legally binding non-disclosure agreement. If he ever spoke about Vance security or my private life on social media, the legal penalties would instantly bankrupt him for 3 consecutive lifetimes. He didn't fight it. He quietly signed the stack of papers. The young boy who used to watch me build firewalls was gone, replaced by a terrified man who finally realized he had burned his only safe harbor. Bella's desperate situation unraveled with terrifying speed. You see, the influencer economy is a highly toxic, deeply fragile ecosystem heavily built on perceived wealth and access. Bella had built her entire online persona around being a Silicon Valley elite. She constantly posted videos from my Malibu estate, vaguely implying it was her own. She leveraged my expensive cars, my private chefs, and my high-end corporate events to secure brand deals. When the heavy iron gates to the $12 million estate slammed shut, her entire fake aesthetic collapsed. She desperately tried to seamlessly transition to a relatable, minimalist aesthetic from the tiny, cramped studio apartment Liam was forced to rent. It was an absolute pathetic disaster. Her elite followers actively noticed the severe downgrade. The luxury brand sponsorships dried up, the expensive designer clothes were quietly returned or sold online to cover basic rent. Without the $20 million Vanguard payout actively looming on the horizon, the marriage instantly lost its only real foundation. Bella had actively married a portfolio. When the heavy portfolio was revoked, she immediately looked for a new host. Exactly 3 months after the disastrous wedding, Bella filed for an aggressive divorce. She desperately demanded spousal support from Liam. It was ironic, she was trying to squeeze blood from a stone that she had personally helped crush. The bitter legal battle over Liam's pathetic remaining savings was ugly, public, and exhausting for both of them. Victoria Keller disappeared from elite circles. The mother who had stood in my ballroom and loudly demanded, "My life's work," was suddenly nowhere to be found. The elite tech community blacklisted her. When you confidently attack a founding board member in front of 200 powerful billionaires, you don't just awkwardly lose an argument. You lose your entire social standing in the state of California. I confidently heard through a mutual acquaintance that Victoria tried to secure a job as a high-end real estate agent in Beverly Hills, but the prestigious brokerage passed on her. Word travels fast when you arrogantly prove you cannot be trusted around luxury assets. As for me, I thrived. I converted the guest estate into an elite, state-of-the-art corporate training center specifically designed for brilliant young female software engineers. I wanted to surround myself with women who knew exactly how to build incredible things from absolute scratch. Women who profoundly understood the value of hard work, relentless dedication, and unyielding boundaries. The very first cohort of engineers arrived exactly 6 months later. We sat quietly on the terrace, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. I poured expensive coffee, we talked about complex code, server architecture, and exactly how to survive the ruthless tech industry without letting greedy people actively compromise your core system. It was the absolute best cup of coffee I had ever had. When you quietly build an empire with your own 2 hands, you quickly learn that not everyone deserves a secure seat at your expensive table. Especially the toxic people who desperately try to flip the table while you are actively feeding them. You do not owe your success to people who refuse to respect the grueling sacrifices you actively made to achieve it. Family is not a free pass for financial abuse. Blood is not an excuse for relentless toxic entitlement. If someone tells you to get out of their life, do not argue. Do not scream, do not cry, you simply turn around, walk away, and you make sure you lock every single one of your doors directly behind you. Let them figure out exactly how to survive the cold winter without your fire. If this terrifying story gave you the absolute courage to finally draw a massive ironclad boundary with the toxic people draining your own life, please confidently hit that like button right now. Share this specific video with any woman who desperately needs a reminder of her own incredible, quiet power, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of absolute, cold justice. Leave a comment down below and proudly tell me, if your toxic family kicked you out of the wedding you paid for, would you bring the black folder to the elite gala, or would you simply cut them off in absolute silence? I meticulously read every single comment, and I will see you all next time. Stay strong, stay brilliant, and always secure your own servers. I want to take a moment to address something I see in the comments of almost every video on this channel. So many of you ask, how do you actually find the strength to do it? How do you walk away from your own family without the guilt crushing you? The truth is, the guilt does try to crush you at first. Society has hardwired us to believe that family loyalty is an unconditional, unbreakable contract, regardless of how much abuse is hurled your way. We are taught to be the bigger person, to keep the peace, to absorb the toxic shockwaves so the rest of the family doesn't have to feel the impact. But I want you to think about your life as a secure network. If you had a fatal virus corrupting your data, draining your resources, and actively attempting to sell your most valuable assets to a hostile third party, you wouldn't keep the peace with the virus. You wouldn't invite it to Sunday dinner. You would immediately quarantine the threat, revoke all access credentials, and rewrite the firewall. Your energy, your peace, and your hard-earned assets are your most critical infrastructure. You have every right to protect them with the exact same ruthlessness you would apply to a corporate cyber attack. When Liam screamed at me to get out of that wedding, he wasn't just being a stressed groom. He was revealing his true source code. He was showing me exactly what he valued more: the toxic approval of a greedy woman over the sister who had sacrificed her entire youth to give him a future. People don't accidentally try to steal $12 million in real estate. That requires planning, malicious intent, and a profound lack of empathy. So, how do you find the strength? You find it by recognizing that setting a boundary is not an act of aggression, it is an act of supreme self-preservation. You find it by accepting that you cannot save people who are actively trying to drown you. You find it by realizing that your silence and your success are the most powerful responses you will ever wield. I didn't need to scream at Bella. I didn't need to have a dramatic, tear-filled argument with Liam. I just needed to secure the perimeter and let their own greed orchestrate their downfall. And that is exactly what happened. I hope this story serves as a loud, undeniable wake-up call for anyone who is currently sacrificing their own well-being to keep toxic people comfortable. Stop funding their disrespect. Stop giving them the master keys to your peace of mind. Change the locks, reset the passwords, and forcefully evict the people who don't belong in your empire. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and leave your own stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and I am constantly inspired by the boundaries you all are drawing. Stay strong, stay sharp, and I will see you in the next video.